Well, I know I've done a lot of talking about diets. I've even talked a little bit about exercise, and we all, I don't even need to talk about exercise. We all know the importance of exercise. One thing that doesn't get talked about enough is the effects of sleep deprivation and the effects of stress on the body. So I thought I would go ahead and just touch on those two things that are so important that we don't do enough. I have seen, I'm just going to tell a story from, it's just a vivid memory I have working at a hospital in Houston years ago. I had a patient who was doing this exact same program there in Houston, and she taking in 800 calories a day, and her weight wasn't changing. And so a lot of times, the first thought, sadly enough, is you're not doing it. There's no way you're doing it, because if you're taking in 800 calories a day, your body would lose the weight. Although I will say sometimes people's weight, they'll have a stall week, or a stall maybe even up to 2 weeks. But this kept going on, and I think we were getting into 3 weeks or so, and she still hadn't lost any weight, and she's adamant that she is following the program. And I mean, you look in someone's eyes, and sometimes you're just like, she's telling the truth. I mean, she just is telling the truth. I know she's telling the truth. And so we got to talking, and I started digging a little deeper, and I got more of her story. And basically, she was a single mom. She worked nights, and so she would go to work all night while her kids were sleeping, and then she would come home during the day. They would go to school, and she would work at home. So she would do laundry, dishes, clean the house, all the stuff that we have to do during the day. And she said she was maybe sleeping twice a day at 2-hour intervals for maybe a total of 4 hours a day, and doing this week after week after week. And so we set a goal, and she was willing to do anything. I mean, when someone's making that kind of sacrifice, you want results, you need results. And so she was willing to do whatever it took. So we just set one simple goal of sleep 6 hours a day. I don't care if the laundry's done. I don't care if there's dishes piled in the sink. You need to sleep 6 hours a day while the kids are at school. So she committed to do that, and she came back the next week, and her weight had dropped off. I mean, it had made a huge difference. And at the time, that was probably around 20 years ago, maybe a little bit less than 20 years ago. At the time, there just wasn't a lot of studies on sleep and the effects of weight management and sleep. But I just knew then, this is coming. We're going to see a lot more research in this area. And since then we have. And sure enough, there is an absolutely direct relationship, or I should say indirect relationship, between getting enough sleep and being able to successfully lose weight. Or it just interferes, lack of sleep interferes with weight management. So sleep is so important. So that's one thing I want to stress. And speaking of stress, stress management is another thing. And I have in my career, I don't have one specific example off the top of my head. You know what? I do. I'd take that back. This was probably a year ago or so. I was working with someone who, single mom also, go figure. She was going back to school. So she had, kids, work, providing for family, trying to lose weight, and she was going back to become a physical therapy assistant. And so the amount of stress, and I remember her weight wasn't coming off quite as fast, although it was still coming off. It wasn't anything alarming. But I do remember one time her coming in after having a stall week, and she was discouraged. And as we talked through it, there was just a series of things that had happened that week that really just dumped a load of stress on her, more than what she typically carried as it was. And so we just talked about the importance of stress management. And when I said I didn't have an example, that was more just managing stress in the long run. There wasn't one magical solution and bam, it fixed the problem. Her life lent to a load of stress, and so that wasn't going to change. But it is about how you're handling stress. So we talked about methods for handling stress, and that is just so important, finding ways to handle stress. And you can do a Google search. I won't spend time, waste your time telling you all about that. But managing stress, and it's unrealistic to think that a lot of times we get trapped in this when mindset. I'll lose weight when, I'll have less stress when. The reality is, we're just always going to have stress. And so it's learning how to handle the stress and knowing that you're just going to have stress. And there are seasons where it's definitely more stressful than other seasons. But learning how to manage stress in a healthy way is so important.